my ADHD diagnosis, I realized that there actually was an explanation for why some nights I would fly into a fit of rage when asked the simple question, "What's for dinner?" And to be clear, I'm not saying that my diagnosis gave me an excuse for my overreaction, but as with so many post-ADHD diagnosis realizations that we have, it helped me to understand why it was happening. The reason? Decision-making. See, decision-making involves a whole heap of executive functions. And when you couple the long day of trying to focus and organize and plan with the low levels of dopamine, it can be understandable that you don't have the executive function to decide what to have for dinner, and you don't have the executive function to control your emotions and stop from flying into a fit of rage when somebody asks you about it. So let's take a little time to understand how executive function and our ADHD may impact our decision-making abilities and discuss some examples of what our decision-making struggles might look like. Because, as I like to say, awareness is power when it comes to developing ADHD coping strategies. So stay tuned for today's episode of the ADHD Mompreneur. But before we dive into the world of decision-making, allow me to introduce myself just in case you're new here. My name is Christy Lingo, and I am an executive function and accountability coach for ADHD mom business owners. I am diagnosed with ADHD as well as being the parent of an ADHD child. I started my coaching business after 10 years as an entrepreneur because I just wasn't finding the support that my unique brain needed. I needed coaches that understood the unique challenges that an ADHD mom business owner would face while trying to build a successful business and juggle their family life. To learn more about my coaching program, visit theadhdmompreneur.com. And while you're there, be sure to grab my free, fully customizable essential checklists for ADHD mompreneurs. These checklists are a great way to help you with your decision making because it actually reduces the number of decisions that you need to make. You don't need to decide the steps because they're already written down. You don't need to decide where you left off because it's the next task after the last one you checked. Not to mention, checklists are a really great way to make sure that you don't forget any steps. So be sure to stop by the ADHDmompreneur.com to check out my coaching program and pick up your free essential checklists for ADHD mompreneurs today. In order to better understand how and why ADHD may impact our decision-making abilities, we must first understand the role that executive function plays in the decision-making process. Executive functioning skills are mental processes that you use to solve problems, make plans, and manage your emotions. Think of them as the skills that you need to actively pursue a goal. The 7 main areas of executive function include self-awareness, or being able to recognize how well you are doing on a task, either physically or emotionally. Inhibition, your ability to control impulsive behavior and resist distractions, also known as self-restraint. Non-verbal working memory. This is how well you can hold things in your mind and process that information for later retrieval. Verbal working memory. This is also known as your inner monologue, or that little voice in your head that helps you to work through decisions and consequences. Emotional self-regulation. This is using self-awareness, inhibition, and both types of working memory to manage your emotional state. Self-motivation, which is motivating yourself to complete a task when there is no obvious reward or consequence. And planning and problem solving. This is the ability to formulate solutions while prioritizing and organizing tasks to achieve a desired outcome. And if you're thinking, I came here to learn about decision making and you haven't really mentioned it once yet, stick with me for just a little longer. ADHD at its core is an executive dysfunction disorder. And while there isn't a 100% certified explanation or reason given in the scientific community yet, it is suspected that the executive dysfunction ADHDers experience is related to varying levels of dopamine. If you'd like to learn more about dopamine and how it relates to ADHD, you can check out my episode, What is Dopamine?, which I will have linked in the show notes below. But as a quick overview, dopamine is in charge of transmitting messages in the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that controls executive function. I swear, we are almost to decisions, I promise. So, why does ADHD make decision-making so hard? Well, in order to make a decision, you need to be able to evaluate and prioritize the options. Hold the relevant information in your mind while you're evaluating it. Weigh the pros and cons of the different choices. Control impulses while you're evaluating your options. Create a plan ahead of time so you have enough time for evaluations. Have cognitive flexibility to adapt to changing situations that may impact your choices or decisions. And all of these steps that I just mentioned involve executive function. So you can see how making decisions, even those that may not feel exhausting or consequential, may completely tap out your ADHD brain. Tell me if these scenarios sound familiar. Imagine that someone in your house asks you what's for dinner. Now your brain has to remember everything that you have on hand, which involves your working memory. You have to consider how much time it may take to cook something and how hungry you are, which would involve problem solving and planning. You have to weigh the benefits of eating something that is healthy versus eating something that you are craving, which involves impulse control. You might also consider everyone else that's in your house and what they might want to eat, which involves cognitive flexibility. And before you know it, 20 minutes have passed, you're still hungry, and you've either decided to serve breakfast cereal or order takeout again. Or you receive an email, read it, decide that you should respond, but struggle with what to say or knowing the right thing to say. Maybe you convince yourself that you need more information in order to reply, or that you need more time to craft an appropriate response. You decide that you'll just do it later, and you close the email. Now 2 weeks have gone by, and that forgotten email is still sitting in your inbox waiting for a response. That, my mama friends, is ADHD decision paralysis in action. Your brain gets stuck trying to evaluate the best response or plan what to say or regulate any emotions that are involved with how you want to respond. And it all becomes so overwhelming that you just fall into task avoidance and don't do it at all. And for those ADHD mom entrepreneurs out there, you know how paralyzing making big business decisions can be. Should you launch a new product? Change your marketing strategy? Delegate tasks? Hire an assistant or an employee? Maybe just chuck it all and start another business because Lord knows that you've got 17 other really, really good ideas running around inside your head. The number of possible outcomes makes it very easy to overanalyze, procrastinate, or impulsively make a choice without thinking everything through. So do you see how understanding why decision-making is so difficult for those of us with ADHD is an important first step in creating strategies to make decision-making a little bit easier? Next week, we're going to dive into decision fatigue, which is the inability to make a decision because you simply have no energy to do so, and analysis paralysis, which is the inability to make a decision because you just have too many choices. I'll also share some practical tools for those of us with ADHD to break through, simplify our choices, and make decisions with confidence. So make sure that you have liked, subscribed, and followed the ADHD Mompreneur so you don't miss next week's episode or any other episodes to help you navigate life as an ADHD mom and business owner. Until then, Keep making your ADHD journey part of your success story. If you're a business-owning mom with ADHD, you're going to need to grab my free, customizable essential checklists for ADHD mompreneurs by visiting bit.ly/checklists for ADHD mompreneurs or by following the link in the episode description. Do it now before you forget. Until next time,